I'm guessing that now you all want to run out and buy a USB floppy drive. Well, I won't stop you, as long as you remember to finish the quiz first. Now, for the answer to the question. The standard 3.5-inch high-density disk could store as much as 1.44 megabytes of data. Wow, that was really a lot once, but, well, let's not dwell on the past. One type of video I've been watching quite a few of on YouTube is the educational video, or the edutainment video, some call them. I was actually a teacher once, so who knows? I might be able to pull one off. Let's try. Hey, Lone Gnu, Jens here. Imagine you're racing the fastest sprinter in the world, but have been granted a small lead. So, you will certainly win the race. For he will have to catch up with the place you are now before he can take the lead, and when he does, you, of course, will have moved forward at the same time, and thus you will still have the lead. This is a version of the most famous of Zeno's paradoxes from the 5th century BC. It wasn't before the 19th century that Cauchy and Weierstrass, finally having formalized the calculus invented by Newton and Leibniz, could mathematically prove that this wasn't really a paradox. Now think about that for a while. It took about 1,500 years. Wow, infinity is definitely a slippery subject. When it comes to infinite sets, one kind of infinity will not suffice. No, we have infinite kinds of infinities, one bigger than the next. If we for each element in a set A can choose an element in a set B such that every element in B is chosen at least once, then we say A is at least as big as B. If, on the other hand, this is not possible, well then clearly B must be bigger than A. Now let's have a look at the set of natural numbers. So we write this like this n here. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and it just goes on like this. And then we have the integers. So these, the natural numbers are called also the positive integers, but these also include 0 and the negative numbers. So it's like this. And so on. So logically we would have that the natural numbers should be a smaller set than the integers. But this is not how it is actually. So clearly we have that that we can, for each integer, we can choose some natural number. Like for example, if we have some integer n, so we write this like that. And if we say n, if n is bigger than 0, well then we can just choose n, because then n is also a natural number. If n, so this is if n is greater than 0, if n is smaller than 0, well then we can choose minus n in the natural numbers. And finally, if n is equal to 0, then we'll just choose, well, any number. Let's just say 42 in the natural numbers. So now for every number in the integers, in the whole numbers, we have chosen a number in the natural numbers. And all the numbers, all the natural numbers are chosen in this way. So clearly we have that, and we write this like this, that the set of natural numbers, the cardinality of the set of natural numbers is smaller than or equal to the cardinality of the integers. But we actually have the other way around also, because let's just have a look at if we choose some number n in the natural numbers, then we can be very smart and choose the correct certain numbers. So we do it like this. So if n is even, then we choose n divided by 2 in the integers. Okay, that's since n is even, then this will also be an integer. So this will actually get us all the positive numbers. Okay, if n is odd, we say 1 minus n divided by 2. Okay, so clearly, and this will give us. Well, let's just see what it will give us actually. So so the odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So let's see 1. So n equals to 1. We get 1 minus 1 divided by 2. That's 0. Well, that's an integer. N equals to 3. We get 1 minus 3 divided by 2. So that's the same as minus 2 divided by 2. That's minus 1. So that's a new integer. N equals to 5. We get 1 minus 5 divided by 2. That's minus 4 divided by 2. That's minus 2. And actually we can go on like this. The next we will get minus 3, minus 4, and so on. So actually in this way we will get all the integers from a natural number. So we can actually see that the natural numbers here has a cardinality that is greater than or equal to the cardinality of the integers. And then we say, when we both have that the cardinality of the natural numbers is smaller than or equal to the cardinality of the integers, and we have the other way around, that the cardinality of the natural numbers is greater than or equal to the cardinality of the integers, well, then we say that they have the same cardinality. So now we have seen that the cardinality of the natural numbers is actually equal to the cardinality of the integers, whole numbers. So one thing, well, many would maybe think now that maybe this means that all infinite sets have the same cardinality. But this is not at all the case. So, so how do we come up with an example for something that doesn't have the same cardinality? And actually what we do here is we define the power set. So we say P of some set, let's just call the set A, is defined as the set of subsets of A. Right. So so let's come up with an example. So if, for example, A has 3 elements, 1, 2, and 3. What are the subsets of A? So we have the subset which is all of A, 1, 2, and 3. That's the first one. Then we have we have 3 different subsets that contains 2 of the elements from A. So we have 1, 2, oh, so 2. We have 1, 3, and we have 2, 3, and let's just continue here. We have 3 subsets only containing 1 element, so that's the set of 1, the set of 2, and the set of 3. And finally we have the empty subset. So we usually write that as this O with a slash through. So we could also write O like this. So a set without anything in it is called the empty set. Okay, so this one we can see it contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we write the cardinality of finite sets, that's just the number of elements in it. So the cardinality of the power set of A is equal to 8. And actually one can prove that that the cardinality of the finite set is equal to 2 raised to the power of the cardinality of the set. So in this case we can see that cardinality of our example here, P of A, well that was 8, which is 2 to the power of 3, which is, well, 2 to the power of the number of elements in A. So that makes sense. Now, how would one go on to prove that we have that the power set of a set has a greater cardinality than the set itself? Well, as we saw, it's pretty obvious when A is a finite set. But what if we have that the A is an infinite set? So let's just write it like this. Okay, what then? Well, one way of doing it, the most famous way, I don't actually know any other ways, is to actually try to make this list of one element from P of A for each element in A. So, and what we actually do, we cheat a little bit. We assume, mathematicians do that a lot, assume that we have a list of elements of the power set here. So let's just specify that that is subsets of A for each. No, yeah, we have a list of one element from here for each element from A. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do here is actually prove that we can find an element. So let's just write it. We will prove that we can find, so we can find an element of this power set. So that's a subset of A not in the list. This is what we're going to do. Now recall that for each element in A, so let's just say, let's call it small a, is an element of A. So for each of those, we have an element of power set of A. So this element we call SA. So we know that this is the element we have for the value A. Okay? Now this will be important in a short while, because we want to define a bit strange set. We want to define O for outside, as a subset of A. This means that O is a subset of A. So that's the same as O being an element of P of A. And we want to define it in this very, very strange fashion. We want it to be, so this is one way of writing sets. We want it to be all the elements of A that satisfy the following condition. Must satisfy that A is not an element of the subset that corresponds to this value A. So for example, if we have 5 is an element of A, then if S5 here is, well, that might be 1, 2, 5, 8. Well, then we have that 5 is not an element of O. But for example, if we take, let's just say 7 is also an element of A, and we might have that S7 here is equal to, well, it might be all the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Well, then we definitely have that 7 is not in S7, so we must have 7 is an element of this set O. Okay? Okay, so we had defined this set O, which were all the elements of A, which were not in the set that corresponded to this element A. And we are actually also interested in the opposite set, the complement set, it's also called. So we call that I for inside. So this is A is outside this subset, and this is the one where A is inside. So A is A where A is inside the corresponding subset. So clearly we cannot have any elements which is both in O and I, because an element cannot both be in the set and not be in the set and be in the set. And likewise, any element of A must either be here or here, because either A is in the set or it's not in the set. So yeah, one of the two things has to be true. So we write this like that the intersection between these two sets is the empty set, and the union of the two sets is the whole set A. So this is the intersection symbol and this is the union symbol. Okay. So what I want to prove is that this set O is actually not anywhere in the list. And the way we do is that we say that, well, if O is in the list, okay, then we must have an element let's just call it R in A, such that O is equal to the subset corresponding to R, so that's SR. So this must clearly be the case. Now what we do now is we notice that R is an element in A, so that must mean R is either an element of O or is an element of I. So we just look at those two cases. So let's just say case 1, R is an element of O. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means that R is, well, R is up here, so that must mean that R is not an element of the subset corresponding to R. So R is not in SR, but SR, that was how we had, that was, well, O was defined as SR, or SR was actually defined as O. So here we say if R is an O, then R is not an O. That doesn't make any sense, so that's impossible. That's just totally impossible. The second possibility, well, that's R is in I. So then we have here that R must be an element of SR, okay? Then R is an element of SR equal to O. Okay, so R is both an element of I and an element of O. But we see here that I and O have no elements in common, so that there are actually no elements which are both in I and O. So this is just as impossible. So, and there are no third options. So this is the only possibility, so we cannot have that O is equal to SR for some R. So we conclude O is not in the list. So now you might say, well, couldn't we just like fiddle a bit around and then put O in the list? And yes, you can do that, but then you can do the exact same thing again and get a new subset which is not in the list. And you will always be able to get a new subset which is not in the list. So that's the whole point. We cannot list or list one element from the power set of A for each element of A, and so of course we can put one element from the power set of A for each element of A. That's no problem, but we can't do it and get all elements of the power set here. So now you know why you can always find a higher infinity, and thus why there are infinitely many infinities. This was first proven near the end of the 19th century by a German mathematician. The theorem is named after this German mathematician, and the argument used is also often named after him. But what is his name?